Hi. This video, I said I was going to start with the description of, or the experiences I had in early childhood that I determined the good part of my life or experiences. But as I was getting ready to start this video, I decided I was thinking about the idea of using the honey badger as an example of, or a substitute for some of the experiences that had gone on in my life. And it caused me to think about or remember something from my childhood that uh, has stuck with me throughout the years, but has been a reference point to how I see or how I saw myself in all this time. And that was during my childhood or that period in my life, my youth. At that time, we didn't have the fancy cell phones or even some of the other devices such as TV and all of that to entertain ourselves. But what we did have at that time was um, comic books. And I think we may have referred to those comic books at that time as funny books. But either way, uh, there was a section that presented advertisement for different services and products and that kind of thing. Well, one of those advertisements, which always impressed me, was I think it was an advertisement of Charles Atlas, and um, it represented a product that could turn you into this He-Man with muscles and strolling on the beach and attracting the women and so forth, and kicking sand on this little regular guy that was lying on the beach as the girl and the guy were strolling by. And I have always been a small statured person, inherited from my parents and so forth, that had me aligned with the guy that was laying on the beach. And so I wanted desperately to be the other guy, the guys with the big muscles and you know the attraction to the women and so forth. So one of the realization I came to is that I didn't have any money or anything that would help me send away to get whatever they were advertising to make me this super hero that would attract women and all of that kind of stuff. So I kind of had to resign myself to the fact that that was not going to be me. And so um, this idea of the honey badger reminded me that, okay, being this little guy that's getting sand kicked on in his face by these bigger, more popular guys, that I had to find a way on my own to navigate this world. And that's my attraction to the honey badger. Then I thought I wanted to share it with you because that really set the tone for how I saw myself through most of my life in terms of recognizing that, I was going to be one of those people in life that would not get the attention of the more attractive, popular people. So I wanted to share that with you just to just to give you an idea of some of the things I ran into throughout my life and what was behind some of the ways in which I saw myself as to where I fit in and so forth. But with that in mind, uh, this this idea of beginning a brand new life in a brand new world as a kid and going forward. Uh, I've tried to express the fact that uh, the skills and the talents that were given to me at birth, but is given to all of us at birth, are there for us to use uh, in the manner in which we choose, and part of that is the free will we have. But part of that is a recognition that those skills and those talents or abilities uh, would be used or could be used in the um glory of our Creator. And to do that, we needed to be able to understand them and learn how to use them. And for me, that process of learning came with the environment that I was placed in the South during segregation and prejudice and all of that, and discovering the limitations of um, when and how to use those talents that I got. But the main thing is I had to begin to test them to see what my capabilities were. So this environment that I described in the South was one of those in which, during that period of time, preschool, I called it, before, in preschool for us was uh, before first grade. We, all of that time, we had to just explore ourselves, our talents, and our abilities. And we had the opportunity that pretty much was safe in terms of the environment that we were placed in. But in that process of testing and discovering, there were a lot of things that for me I ran across that taught me valuable lessons. I mentioned one earlier about sticking my hand on a log and the consequences of that. But there are others were, that I experienced that taught me lessons about what to um, uh, be careful of, what to feel good about, relying on uh, those talents I had been given to get me out of different situations. One in particular was trying to jump across a little creek in the woods where I thought, well, even if I didn't make it, I could just walk across it. Well, to my surprise, the center of that creek had a bottomless uh, pit. Well, there was no bottom to it. And so when I landed in it, because I didn't jump across, I ended up with trying to hold on to to the bank, but it was so slippery uh, that I couldn't pull myself out of it. And as a result, someone had to help me to get out of that situation. But it was an experience and a lesson in terms of my capabilities. And there were many more like that were part of this period. And I call it a good opportunity to know who I was and learn what I was capable of. Um, at that same time, there was there were other lessons that were being taught, some by my family, and in terms of in this environment that we're in, things to be cautious of, to be aware of, to avoid, and be fearful of. And that had to do with the segregation and the interaction with other groups of people. And so that was a lesson just to learn like anything else to me in this whole process. I didn't, I took on, I think, the concern and the fears of our parents in terms of what to watch out for. But I don't know that I ever adopted the opinion that uh, that made me anything different than um, anybody else. What it made me was being aware of how to navigate in this environment that I found myself in. The same thing had to do with at this time being taught uh, the teachings of God and religion and so forth. They were, for me, lessons to learn in terms of uh, how God wanted us to live here on this earth and things uh, that would land us in either heaven or hell. And so all of those to me were a part of this discovery process here that I refer to that causes me to just take on uh, different experiences, different information, and be able to uh, uh, have it, be able to rely on that information when I needed to. And for me, as long as it represented truth and an experience I could say I really believe in, then I was okay with it in whether or not it restricted my actions or activity. And I think that was one of the first triggers for me in terms of this path of man and what it was teaching me. And that was if it was a valid and good path, why would it restrict my abilities when God gave me those abilities? That's the uh, one of the questions that automatically popped up that I didn't have an answer to for at that time, but it certainly was one in which um, needed to make sense to me. And that same thing held true with uh, the information I got from being in church and in Sunday school and all of that for all of those years. They were beginning to shape how I saw this environment of mine. Well, back to, before I go on and talk about segregation and how I saw that, I want to fast forward a little bit to talk about uh, what I've come to know in the later years of my life through technology and especially things like YouTube and so forth is uh, it gives me or gave me an opportunity to see other environments throughout the world and uh, the way in which other people were addressing and dealing with the environments that they were placed in. And some of them for me were so harsh that I don't know that the skills that I was given would be able to uh, to accomplish or compete or survive in those environments. And if you take a look at uh, the nomads in the Himalayas or in India and all of those other places in those parts of the world, even in Africa, and you see that just struggling on a daily basis just to survive and knowing the effort it took to do or takes to do that. Well, when I look at those uh, other places and the people who inhabit those places, I get a sense of admiration for how they use the skills and the talent that were given them to be able to uh, survive and overcome the environment that they were placed in. And I'm a little bit envious of the fact that how they see their struggle to survive and overcome the obstacles that have been a part of their life. A little envious of the fact that the spirit that's within them, that I see, uh, and the way they handle themselves without knowing or having a way out of their situation. And it just impresses me so in looking at them as to how they handle that. And again, what I see in that is uh, the spirit within them that I call the Spirit of God operating, and them relying on that spirit to be able to survive on a daily basis and throughout their lives. So, going back to this environment that I found myself in, I think about uh, trying to be able to use what was given me to handle this environment. And so that was the test for me in this process of uh, preparing for this life and this life's journey that was before me. Now, one of the uh, things that had to be learned for me started at uh, the officially entering into the first grade, first day of first grade of school. And that to me started this process of learning uh, the rules, the regulations, and the expectations of me in order to be successful uh, in this country that I was born into. And in that process, there was this understanding of the fact that this separation I've been talking about segregation and prejudice and all of that, had to be an acceptance of the fact that there was not going to be equal access to uh, this process of learning that built into the system that was entered into was a disadvantage uh, on my part in terms of what others had been made of what had been made available to others and their ability to prepare for their journey in life. So my my focus was never on the fact that the where I was started and in this process and what was available to me was hand-me-down books and 5-year-old equipment and everything that were discarded by this other group who had all of these advantages in terms of their preparation for life. What I saw and what my focus was on just the opportunity. I didn't think that those things were going to uh, cause me to adopt the attitude that meant I was less than those people. I was what it meant to me was uh, that this opportunity to understand this society that I was born into, however it came, I had to be able to understand it or learn it, I'll put it that way. And all of this I'm talking about now is hindsight, but it's just that I never got the idea that that what was offered to me to start this first grade of school was somehow less. It was more, actually, it was more than I had from the beginning, so I was happy about that. I was also happy about the fact that I finally got to have an opportunity to interact with other people in this community of mine on a consistent basis, being able to um, uh, sit down with others, play with others, and have somebody be able to start to give me information about this world that I found myself in. But that led, that experience really led to me what I call here my first humiliation ritual. And uh, in this process of starting school and being around all of these new people and being able to get up close and personal with them, I ended up um, identifying this young girl that I took a liking to, and at that time I didn't have the restrictions of second guessing whether I should or shouldn't do something. But anyway, the opportunity came for me to tell her I liked her, and when I did that, I guess it surprised her. But whatever uh, she was thinking, her reaction is what I refer to as my first humiliation, and it had to do with her turning around because my brother was nearby, turning around and going over to him and putting her arm around his neck and indicating to me that that's who she liked. And I was so embarrassed that I didn't know how to handle that. So I think I just ended up running away from it and was so outdone that I didn't want to share my feelings again in that manner to anyone. I was so hurt by it. And I think that also set a pattern for me of being very protective of my emotions, my feelings, and so forth, and not letting anybody see what I really wanted in life. So that uh, in this whole process here I'm explaining, that started my lessons in this journey of life that I've been on for all of these years. And a lot of it has come from uh, uh, traveling the path of man and understanding the rules and regulations that govern that path. Some of it uh, was along the path of God with spirituality and understanding the environment and so forth. But all of it for me, I didn't form an opinion of it. What I did was decide I needed to learn and understand, I guess you might say, the lay of the land in any case and learn how to deal with it from all perspectives. And that isolated me, I think, from others because I began not sharing what I really wanted or was interested in, just keeping that to myself. So that's a little bit of uh, this good part of life for me that also included other things, but um, some of the bad part of life. But uh, all of it were lessons in living, and for me, they came from all of the inputs, and they began to uh, be a part of how I looked at life from that going forward. Now, the next video will focus on what I term the bad part of life, which is a continuation of this uh, starting of first grade of school and going forward from there. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video, and thanks.